What is up, Notre Dame fans? I'm Tyler Horka. That's Todd Burlage. We are at Notre Dame Stadium on a cold, late April day. I think I even saw some snowflakes coming down at some point. Marcus Freeman called it some tough. I don't know if the word was tough, but I'll use tough. Tough conditions, because every day that it's been like this, in the 40s, rainy, precipitating, whatever you want to say, they just go inside to the Irish Athletic Center during the 14 practices that they had this spring before that. Not today. You had about, I would say, a couple thousand fans out here today.
That was my estimate, although the attendance says 32,000. I don't think there were
32,000, no. A few thousand fans at Notre Dame Stadium today watched the Gold team, led by Wake Forest transfer quarterback Sam Hartman, beat the Blue team, led by junior Tyler Buchner, 24-0. It was 21-0 at half. Sam Hartman's day was done by halftime. He went 13 of 16 for 189 yards, 2 passing touchdowns, and a rushing score. You have Tyler Buchner's numbers there. I don't know them off the top of my head because they weren't that good. Actually, I think it was 8 of 18 for 44 yards and an interception. Obviously, no touchdowns because the Blue team didn't score one. We'll start right there, Todd, with the quarterbacks. What'd you see?
I'll tell you what I saw was something I haven't seen all spring ball, and that's Hartman easily outplaying Buchner. You know, we entered this game, all of us, not just us two, but all the media, even fans that had a chance to watch some of those practices, saying, man, Buchner has really played his way into this competition, maybe even taken over for Hartman. That wasn't the case today. Hartman was poised, accurate. He was everything he was supposed to be as advertised today. We saw it. Meanwhile, Buchner looked like Hartman has in the spring. You know, he seemed timid, a little bit confused. And in all honesty, Buchner was supposed to have the better wide receivers, and that didn't turn out to be the case. So Hartman clearly has a one-up advantage going into the summer here.
So the best wide receiver ended up being Jaden Greathouse, one of those freshman early enrollees, and, man, he was good. I think it – back me up here, Todd. I think it was 11 catches for 118 yards?
Yep.
11.
You don't even need a stat sheet.
I got all the numbers in my head, just sat through a press conference studying them, staring at them, but he was really good.
Yeah.
And, hey, I just want to shout myself out. Hey, Horka, it's a thing that we do on blueandgold.com every single week. Message board posters ask me questions, and I answer them, and one of the first ones was, hey, who's going to be the MVPs? Didn't get the defensive one. I picked Drake Bowen. He didn't have one of the best days. There was some really good linebacker play today.
Yeah.
He was not in that group of elite status, but I did pick Jaden Greathouse as my offensive MVP. I would probably still give it to Hartman, but if you're talking skill players, he was the best. And so, yeah, I guess we'll kind of stick with the skill players. Why? I'll give my take here in a minute, but why do you think it was the case where we saw that role reversal that you mentioned, Hartman being so much better than Buchner? I think it had to do a lot with offensive line play. You're playing in a red jersey, and one of Tyler Buchner's best strengths is running away from people, and you don't really allow him to do that. As soon as someone gets in within breath shot of him, you kind of blow the play dead. Yeah. Do you think that had a lot to do? What did you see for the discrepancy?
I did think that had a lot to do with it. I actually wrote something going into the game that the rules, the touch sacks, and, you know, as soon as you touch the quarterback, he's down. That was going to be tough for Buchner. That was kind of working against him. But again, you still have to say that he looked confused. He looked timid.
Yep.
He did not look confident. Meanwhile, Hartman did. Hartman took control of things. Hartman had 4 drives, led 3 touchdown drives on those. Meanwhile, Buchner had 6, and obviously I think 4 of them were over on downs and then the interception. So it was night and day, and I did not expect that. Even with the rules maybe limiting Buchner a little bit, not that much.
Yeah, Buchner looked off. Hartman did not. Only had 3 incomplete passes all day, obviously. You mentioned the interception. Jaden Mickey, he was fired up for this thing. He was trash talking. He was standing right out there at midfield before the game started, just chirping the other sideline. And
receivers of the Blue.
Backs it up because it really looked like man coverage where he was covering Deion Colzie, and Tyler Buchner tried him, severely underthrew the ball. And Mickey was able to just kind of jump it and come away with it. And that was 2 passes after Jaden Osbury probably should have had a pick six. The ball touched both hands. Buchner looking for Chris Tyree on the sideline, 0 chance. I said it was about a snowball's chance and you know where of completing that pass.
Right.
It just had no chance. And that was kind of the theme for Buchner all day, is that he didn't throw a very catchable ball. This is one little snippet of the spring, and obviously we saw Tyler Buchner play really well throughout the spring. So that's kind of why Marcus Freeman, after the game today, in his press conference, he said, look, this is still a quarterback competition. Now, I think even when Tyler Buchner was out playing Sam Hartman in the spring, I've come on these videos, I've gone on blueandgold.com and said, yes, that has been the case. He's looked better, but I would still put my money on Sam Hartman to win this job because he is the guy that's played college football for 6 years. And you just get him into like a game.
You wonder about that
atmosphere like this, and he just shows up. He plays.
Yeah, when you're watching 7-on-7 drills or 11-11 with very limited contact during practice, that's one thing.
Yep.
You're right. You put the lights on in a little bit, obviously a more realistic setting to a game day Saturday, and you're right. He played up to that moment where Buchner did not.
Yep. We mentioned a couple defensive guys. Osbury, even though he didn't come away with that interception, I thought he looked really good, and that was kind of the theme. A lot of really good young linebackers making plays. Jalen Sneed leads the gold team with 7 tackles. I think it was Nolan Ziegler on the blue team had 10 tackles. Preston Zinter makes a tackle for loss on Audric Estime on 4th down. There were plays all over the place. What did you see from the defense?
Yeah, you know what? You mentioned 3 guys that got game balls for me, if I'm not mistaken. I know Ziegler did and Zinter did for sure. I was really impressed with Ziegler. Now, obviously with all the veteran linebackers, a lot of them didn't play today. It's going to be tough for him to crack any rotational role. But at the same time, maybe he makes a case for special teams. Certainly, maybe you grab the coach's attention a little bit. I really enjoyed watching Jalen Sneed play. There was one drive in particular in the first half where he made a solo stop on 3rd down and a solo stop on 4th down, which forced the Blue over on downs. And I thought that was impressive as well. 3 solo stops for him, those 2 big ones. But they talked to him, you guys talked to him after the fact in a press conference setting, and he said that because he started playing late last year, he feels like he's ahead of the game, way ahead of the game this year. And it really showed today, Tyler.
Yeah, Marcus Freeman and Sneed told us this, sat him down and said, we are going to redshirt you, and if you're the number 1 player in your recruiting class, that's never what you want to hear. You want to play all 13 games.
5 stars, right?
But as soon as it got to November and Sneed hadn't seen the field and they said, okay, we could play you 4 games now and you can retain that redshirt, I think it started to click last year.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Even said so.
It was clicking today, and I think he's a guy that can play for Notre Dame this fall. And I think there's a lot of guys in that younger category who are ready to break out. Tyson Ford in his green jersey today, that green number 9, absolute menace. Mm-hmm. He was another guy that made plays on back-to-back plays. That's how you can tell a player is kind of clicking mentally when it's not just a flash in the pan. They make a play, and then on the very next snap, they make a play again. So that was really encouraging. So we've gone from the quarterbacks to the defense. We sat here in the same press box today for about 2.5 hours together. Anything else that kind of caught your eye, just maybe it was in terms of logistics of the game, players that stood out, coaches, anything?
I think what caught my eye really was Jared Parker working upstairs from the press box. It all looked like the operation ran pretty smoothly, and that was something I wanted to watch today. I don't believe there are any pre-snap penalties. I don't believe so. They only had the 1 timeout that they had to call prematurely. That was in the first half, so it wasn't about a big rash of timeouts because they couldn't get the play in. And I didn't see any snags on substitutions either. So that was encouraging for me. That was kind of his first dress rehearsal as well. Obviously, they had a scrimmage in here last week, but at the same time, I thought the offensive operation was really good today.
It's just an interesting game, and we'll wrap up on this note because you've got mixed-matched offensive lines, and I thought there were times where you could see that those guys weren't on the same page. And the Zinter play that I talked about earlier, he just shot through a wide-open gap to tackle the running back behind the line of scrimmage. And then you have pass catchers who are kind of all out of sorts too. Rico Flores Jr., for example, is the guy that we've talked about all spring for how good he is. And just the way that blue team offense was operating or not operating, he didn't get very many looks today. Tobias Merriweather didn't get very many looks today.
Catch.
So you kind of leave this game thinking, what does this thing look like when all of the ones are on the field at the same time and the backups are able to supplement those guys in a natural way? So
Well, we thought coming in that the Blue had the much better receivers, and probably on paper they did. But when you look at it, Merriweather, Colsey, and Tyree, they combined for only 5 catches, and I think it was not very many yards, maybe 34 yards, I think is what it was when I wrote it. So that didn't pan out. Probably not read too much into it. In all honesty, the thing I don't like about the Blue Gold game draft is because you split up that offensive line. I'm almost rather see the one offensive line stay together and the two offensive lines.
You just can't take anything away from it.
I think you'd get more continuity in the offense and probably better work, but obviously those decisions are for people much more important than me.
And it was interesting. I mean, there were spring games where I just lose total interest.
Right.
There was always something that you could look, was Buckner going to be able to go out there and finally get it going, or was this player finally going to make a big play and whatnot? So I do agree with you. It could be a better format, but I mean, as far as spring game goes, I kind of like that it's an actual game. You run the clock in the fourth quarter, and you have an end. You have 60 minutes of football in sight to finish, and that's that. But
and it's a regular game. They used to kind of do this squirrely thing, tackles for loss, 2 points, and that type of thing. So yeah, it is nice to just get a regular and real final score.
All right, I will end with one thing. We can't go this entire time without saying Jaden Thomas's name. I don't think we've said his name. Scored the very first touchdown of the game on a heck of an effort.
Yeah, that really was. That 9-yarder, yeah.
Yeah, you just kind of flip him the ball out there, and he's not the fastest guy on the team, especially from a wide receiver standpoint, but he might be the strongest wide receiver that Notre Dame has.
He's a hoss.
And he carried a couple guys into the end zone. Sam Hartman's rushing touchdown I thought was a great offensive play.
And that was set up by a 46-yard catch by Thomas. Yep. That's what got him down inside the 10-yard line. So, yeah, he definitely came out and made an early impact. Didn't do a whole lot in the second half. Of course, nobody really did a whole heck of a lot in the second half. So.
Yeah, I did start writing the story a little early there in the second half. But, so we've gone almost a dozen minutes on this, and I'd say that's plenty for a spring game. But – yeah, the next time we'll be here, I guess Notre Dame will be hosting Tennessee State in the home opener a week after they play Navy in Dublin. So I know it feels like it might be forever away, but it comes fast and it'll be here before you know it. So I'm Tyler Horka. That's Todd Burlage, and we will see you next time.